hello to all our dear listeners of the Savadestan Ask podcast. Welcome to the first episode of our new podcast section, namely the video game section. This section is dedicated to computer and video game enthusiasts. In this section, we engage in discussions about the stories of various games with computer game enthusiasts. I'm Arash Azarpay, and I'm honored to be your host in this podcast. Mr. Ali Barjani is with us as our guest. Hello, Mr. Barjani.
Hello to all our dear listeners. I am very happy to be here in the first series of this kind of podcast, which I am also fond of, serving you and our dear listeners.
You're welcome. Well, today's game is one of the successful franchises in the world of computer games. This game was developed by Ubisoft and developed by Ubisoft Montreal. Many gamers have formed a strong connection with the characters and personalities of this game series in a way that they become happy or upset with the game character. Well, if you're a gamer listening to this podcast, you probably already guessed the name of the game before I even mentioned it. Thanks to the podcast's intro music. Yes, it's Assassin's Creed. Today, we intend to discuss the first installment of this game with Mr. Barjani. So, let's get started. Well, Ali, before we delve into the game's story, could you provide us with some general information about this game's series?
Of course. As you mentioned, these games are developed by Ubisoft, and as of now, when I'm talking to you, many parts of this game with different stories have been released. The latest installment in this game series as of now is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which captivates every gamer with its stunning graphics. Let's focus on the first part of these games, which had very gamer hooked back in 2007. At the time of its release, we were introduced to an exciting open-world game where we could immerse ourselves as skilled assassins and do whatever we pleased. On the other hand, the white robes, along with the red lines of these assassins and their hidden daggers, had such visual appeal that it caught everyone's attention. But ultimately, it was the mysterious story of Assassin's Creed that kept fans engaged with the series for all these years.
Yes, I remember too. It was a really great experience, especially with the captivating stories of the series, from climbing tall buildings, parkouring through the city, to quietly assassinating targets. These are just a few of the unique features of this game. Now that we're talking about the first installment of the game, can you give us a brief overview of the game's story and characters? If I'm not mistaken, it should be Altar, right?
Well, you remember it, don't you? That's correct. But let me start with a small explanation about the Assassin's Brotherhood before we dive into the story of the first game. This will make it easier to understand the name of the game and its storyline.
Sure, we're eager to hear.
The English word assassin has its root on the Persian word hashashin, which in turn comes from the word hashish. Hashashin means hashish users or even brothers, or hashish eaters, let's say. It's important to note that this term has no connection to the drug called hashish. It might have returned to the use of herbal medicine in the past. In major cities in Iran, drug of hashish can be also used, especially in the Seljuk period. There was a market called the Hashash market, where herbal medicine as chemical drugs were not available at that time were sold. Now, that's the connection between Hashashin and the assassin. The answer to this question is somehow related to a figure in Iranian history named Hassan Sabbah. In the 5th century, or let's say 11th century after D, a man was born in Ray, Iran, who had a promising future ahead of him. Little is known about his life before he sees the Alamut castle. Some sources suggest that he went to Cairo for education at the age of 17 and adopted a Fatimid Ismaili faith there. The faith, known as Ismailism, is one of the branches of Shia Islam, believing that the imamate should have passed to his son Ismail after Imam Jafar al-Sadiq However, the most significant impact of Hassan Sabbah was his acquaintance with the history of pre-Islamic Iran, a glorious country that had been destroyed by the Arab invasion, reducing its people to vassals and Abbasid Caliphate. This study ignited a nationalistic fervor in Hassan Sabbah, and he was determined to restore Iran to its former glory. After returning to Iran, he settled in the Alamut Castle and began preaching his own version of Ismaili faith. His followers were called Ahl Batin, or people of the inner, in translinguistics, and as they believed that they were the only ones who truly understood the Quran's hidden meanings. One of the obligations of Hassan Sabbah's follower was physical training and mastering combat skills. Every week, all Batinis residing in their castle throughout the country would spend a full day outside practicing sports and military exercises. Each Batini was valued as much as 10 regular soldiers of that time, and this was due to Hassan Sabbah's effort in preparing his followers for war and self-defense. However, there was a special group called Fadayan Mutlaq, or absolute devotees. These individuals had special talents, were entirely devoted to the Batini's cause, and were sent to a specific castle for special training. They were in a way that shocked troops of the assassins, excelling in combat skills and military strategy. Hassan Sabbah used these individuals to assassinate key enemies, and it's been said that even assassinated Haji Nasiruddin. Now, you might be wondering that what does all this have to do with the Hashashin, which means hashish producers or consumers? The answer is that the Batinis support themselves by cultivating medical herbs and sending them to various cities in Iran. Although the game Assassin's Creed does not directly reference to Hassan Sabbah, it does mention a character named Al-Mu'allim, who is Rashid ad-Din Sinan, one of the Ismaili imams in Syria, residing in Masyaf Castle. This is how the story of Assassin's Creed game was created. But it's important to note that the Batinis were not trying to stop the fight by the Templars. At least this was not the case in Iran. Their presence during Crusades and the resistance against Christians became an interesting subject to Ubisoft to choose the conflict between assassins and Templars as the main theme for their games. I apologize if I talk too much about the topic, but in my opinion, when we want to discuss a subject, understanding its roots is clearer. And this was a brief, very concise history of how Ubisoft came with the idea to create such a successful series of computer games. I'm here for you.
No, you're welcome. I didn't have much information and I really enjoyed hearing all of this. Very well. Now, can you tell us about the first installment of this game?
You're welcome, yes. Desmond Miles is kidnapped by a mysterious company called Obstegro to be used as a subject for a device called the Anonymous. This device allows access to distant memories of ancestors throughout their DNA. Obstegro placed Desmond inside the device to relieve the memories of one of his ancestors named At-Tahir ibn Lahad. Just remember the name. At-Tahir was a member of the secretive assassin brotherhood in 1191. Oh, yes, 1191, during the Third Crusade in the Holy Land. Desmond initially struggles to synchronize with the Anonymous, but eventually managed to establish a connection with the ancestor of At-Tahir in the days that follow. The game then alternates between At-Tahir's perspective and Desmond's present-day experiences. Desmond is shown to have created At-Tahir's mind and traveled back in time to his era, but he still experiences some disorientation. He hears the voices of Lucy and Vidic, employees of the Obstegro. After a short while, At-Tahir awakens from the device, which resembles a type of bed. Riddick or Riddich in the native language provides Desmond with some explanations about the Anomus and puts his through training program. And after training, Desmond dives into Attar's memory. Lucy tells Desmond that by reviewing of Attar's memory, he needs to further synchronize in mind with Attar's memory to ultimately reach the specific memory of Segre's after. The first memory shown in the Attar's mind attempt to obtain an ancient artifact known as the Piece of Eden from the Temple of Solomon with the help of Malik and his brother. However, their mission is thwarted by Robert the Stubble.
You are not the only ones with business here.
Well, this explains my missing man. And what is it you want?
Blood.
No! You know not the things in which you meddle, assassin. I spare you only that you may return to your master and deliver a message. The Holy Land is lost to him and his. He should flee now while he has the chance. Stay, and all of you will die.
The Grand Master of the Templars, sworn enemies of Assassin. During the retrieval of the artifact, Attar disobeys three fundamental tenets of Assassin's Creed, which are stay your blade from the flesh of an innocent, hide in plain sight, and never compromise the Brotherhood when he attempted to kill Sablé but failed. Following this event, Malik's brother is killed and Malik himself loses his left arm, which is later amputated. When Attar returned to the assassin's stronghold, he presents the ancient artifact to Malik, who accuses Attar of arrogance and insubordination. After defending the assassins against a vengeful Templar attack, Attar is demoted to the rank of novice, and Malik holds his responsible for the loss of his arm. After this incident, there is an attack on the assassins by the Vengeance Templar, and the Templars are repelled. Al-Mu'allim, the leader of the assassins, promotes Attar to the rank of novice and gives him a second chance to redeem himself. Al-Mu'allim assigned Attar to task of assassinating a key figure in Holy Land, which includes targets such as Majuddin, which is the regent of Jerusalem, Garnier de Napolis, which is the Grand Master of Hospitallers, Jubair al-Haq, which is a prominent scholar in Damascus, Syria, and Abu Nuqud, which is the wealthiest man in Damascus, as well as Robert de Sablé, which is the Grand Master of the Templars. Attar soon realized that the connection between all these individuals and Sablé's intention to pit Muslims and Christians against their common enemies, the Hashashin. With the target's death, whether Muslim or Christian, Attar unravels that Sablé intends to turn both factions against this common enemy, the Hashashin. Attar defeats Sablé in front of the Richard of the Lionheart, but fails to persuade the king that ending the war is in both parties' interest. Through the Sablé, he learned that Al-Mu'allim himself is a member of the Templars, and he has used Attar to eliminate his rivals and secure the artifact solely for himself.
Yeah, I remember. That part where we found out Al-Mu'allim was actually a Templar was quite surprising, because from the perspective of the game's character, he appeared to be a father figure to Altar. So, what happened next?
Attar quickly returns to Masyaf to confront his mentor and reveal the truth, which is a piece of Eden that Attar obtained by killing one of those individuals has the power to create illusion of a person. Al-Mu'allim dismisses his teaching and other supernatural events such as falsehood and summons as illusory figure created by this heavenly artifact. He intends to use this artifact to manipulate the minds of all humanity, thereby ending war and strife in the world. Attire suddenly gains the ability to see the real Al-Muallim hidden with the illusions and kills him, of course. When Attire obtains a piece of Eden, it activates display a map on the board along with the locations of other pieces.
Very well done. So this was almost the end of the game, but what happened to Desmond after that? The person who had delved into Alter's memories, right?
Yes, when the process is complete, Desmond learns that Obstacle belongs to the modern-day Templars, and they've been seeking other pieces throughout Attar's memory. He later discovers that the modern-day assassins also intended to rescue him, but were, of course, unsuccessful. Desmond was supposed to be killed in the end, but one of the Obstacle scientists, named Lucy Stillman, saves him from death and takes him to the safe location, bending the finger that bears to the traditional assassin mark to reveal it to him. Even though Desmond is trapped inside the Obstacle's laboratory, his experiences from entering the anomalous devices transfer some of the Altar's ability to him. He sees messages about the end times and the end of the world in various scripts and languages, all pointing to December 21st, 2012. Obstacle plans to launch a permanent satellite into space on that day to bring an end to war, which this is the same method that Tyr used to hypnotize the entire city of Masyaf. The game concludes with Desmond's confusion in understanding these signs and phrases. In fact, all these symbols were drawn into Desmond's own blood.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ali Barjani. I thoroughly enjoyed revisiting this memory. And even though it's an old game, its themes and intricacies are still captivating and discuss-worthy to this day. I personally found it enjoyable, and I hope it has been informative and entertaining for our beloved gamers who are our main audience.
You're welcome. Yes, there are some games that may finish, but the game's storyline and the character, of course, experiences always stay with the gamer. I also hope our discussion has been interesting and useful. Looking forward to our next meeting.
Thank you. Goodbye. Well, that wraps up another episode of our podcast, Savadestan Ask. This was the first episode of the video games segment. We would like to encourage our dear listeners to reach out to us with any questions or suggestions they might have. This was our discussion about the fantastic game Assassin's Creed 1. We hope it has been informative. Please stay tuned for our upcoming and diverse podcasts. Until next time.